Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Black waitress answers Chinese call in front of millionaire, next day she's fired. But they didn't know who her father was. Aaliyah Johnson grew up in a working-class Atlanta neighborhood, a place of stark contrasts, old buildings and new construction, the precariousness of some and the vibrant hopes of others. This neighborhood embodied the complexity of American urban life, a mix of cultures, social struggles, but also dreams and ambitions, often thwarted by structural obstacles. The only child of Mei Ling Johnson, a gentle but resolute Chinese-American woman, and Marcus Johnson, a tall African-American man and former U.S. Army general, Aaliyah grew up surrounded by two worlds that, to some, seemed far apart, but in her family, had merged into a unique richness. Mei Ling, her mother, had emigrated from Shanghai in her youth. She was a woman passionate about her culture and her mother tongue. She had always ensured that her daughter maintained this precious connection with her Chinese origins. Every evening, she told Aaliyah stories of ancient legends, poets, and wise men, while teaching her Mandarin with patience and kindness. This language, for Aaliyah, was not only a means of communication, but a living link with her extended family back in China, a bridge between continents. Marcus Johnson, her father, had dedicated much of his life to the military. A man of discipline and values, he embodied rigor and determination. After several campaigns abroad, he retired to become a national security consultant, but above all, he was a model of courage and integrity for his daughter. Marcus had instilled in Aaliyah a deep pride in her black heritage and a strong sense of justice. He often told her, "Never let anyone make you doubt your worth. Be strong, be proud, and move forward with your head held high." Growing up with these two cultural backgrounds hadn't always been easy. Aaliyah sometimes felt pressured to excel in everything she did, as if to justify her place in a world often tainted by prejudice. At school, some students looked at her with curiosity, even suspicion, because of her ethnic mix, while others admired her ability to speak multiple languages and her intelligence. At 25, while pursuing a degree in hospitality management at a local university, Aaliyah worked as a waitress at the Golden Orchid, a restaurant renowned for its luxury and high standards. This job wasn't just a student gig, it was a way for her to learn the ropes of the hospitality world, observe the codes of high-end service, and, most importantly, finance her studies. Her dream, which she had nurtured since childhood, was clear: to one day become a hotel manager, to run an establishment where every guest would be treated with respect, without distinction or prejudice. But in this hushed world of luxury, where appearances often dominated, Aaliyah also felt the coldness of a sometimes rigid hierarchy, and the shadow of latent racism that manifested itself in small signs of contempt or exclusion. Yet, she moved forward, carried by the strength of her roots, the discipline of her father and the wisdom of her mother, determined to turn her dreams into reality. It was a typical Thursday afternoon at the Golden Orchid. The restaurant, famous for its refined decor blending Asian elegance and American modernity, was particularly crowded that day. Businessmen, wealthy tourists, and regulars dined in a cozy atmosphere where every detail, from the china to the impeccable tablecloths, reflected luxury. Aaliyah Johnson, true to her reputation as an attentive and professional waitress, glided between tables with ease, a smile on her face despite her fatigue. Her uniform perfectly pressed, she took orders with effortless gentleness, while remaining fast and efficient. As she approached a table to order the daily special, her phone vibrated softly in the pocket of her black skirt. She knew it was her mother, Mei Ling, calling from Shanghai. Without hesitation, discreetly, Aaliyah picked up the phone, placing the receiver to her ear while keeping an eye on her customers. "Hello, Mom," she replied calmly in Chinese, her voice low but clear. Her worried mother quickly explained that Aaliyah's grandmother, a strong woman who had always watched over her from halfway around the world, had just fallen seriously ill. It was an urgent call, but Aaliyah didn't want to lose her composure or disrupt the service. So she spoke fluently, choosing her words carefully, her sentences tinged with an almost maternal gentleness. While exchanging this essential information, she continued to observe her customers, ready to respond to their needs. However, in that same room, a gaze suddenly fell upon her with a stern expression. Charles Whitmore, a billionaire known for his financial empire and oversized ego, was sitting nearby, surrounded by his assistants. His perfectly tailored jacket, hard gaze, and controlled gestures betrayed a personality accustomed to imposing his will. He frowned at the foreign language Aaliyah was using. For him, in this place where he spent thousands of dollars each time he visited, speaking Chinese was considered disrespectful or unbearably amateurish. He signaled discreetly to one of his assistants, who called the restaurant manager. The manager arrived quickly, a little tense, knowing that losing a customer like Whitmore could be very costly. "Who is this waitress?" Whitmore asked in a dry, almost authoritarian voice. "She's speaking a foreign language while I'm here as a loyal customer. This is unacceptable." The manager, trying to calm the situation, approached Aaliyah, who had just finished her conversation. "Miss Johnson, I must ask you not to speak a foreign language while serving," he said in an embarrassed but firm tone. "It doesn't go down well with the customers." Surprised, her dignity hurt, Aaliyah tried to justify herself with respect. "Sir, it was an urgent call from my mother, and I was answering quickly. I wasn't speaking loudly, But before she could finish, Whitmore cut her off with a gesture and a condescending tone. "This is unprofessional. We expect impeccable service here, not distractions. Please be mindful of your behavior." A tense silence fell around them. The other customers cast awkward glances, some whispered among themselves. Aaliyah felt her heart pound, a dull anger mixed with immense sadness washing over her. She looked down for a moment, aware that this simple exchange could have far greater consequences than she imagined. The next morning, Aaliyah arrived at the Golden Orchid with her usual routine, despite the invisible weight of tension weighing on her shoulders. Her mind was spinning around the previous day's incident, unsure of how things would turn out. Shortly after arriving, she received a message from the manager, asking her to report to the executive office immediately. Her heart sank. Something was wrong. When she walked through the glass office door, she was greeted by an icy silence. Sitting behind his desk, Mr. Caldwell, the CEO, had a closed, almost impassive expression. Beside him, the human resources manager also looked tense. "Sit down, Miss Johnson," Mr. Caldwell began gravely. "After discussion with management, we have decided to terminate your contract." The shock was immediate. Aaliyah remained silent, her eyes wide, searching for words in a suddenly tight throat. "Your behavior yesterday," he judges, "harmed the prestigious image of our establishment. Answering a personal call in Chinese, in front of our customers, is unacceptable and contrary to our policy." Aaliyah felt her world crumble. Everything she had worked for seemed to vanish in an instant. She felt a deep wound, not only professional, but personal. The injustice of the decision burned in her heart. Yet, despite the pain, she remained calm. Her upbringing, the discipline passed on by her father, commanded her to remain dignified. "Sir," she tried gently, "it was just an urgent call from my mother. I didn't raise my voice or disrupt the service. I assure you, I always do everything right." But his words were lost in the cold air of the office. The verdict was in, without appeal. What no one in that restaurant knew was that behind this humble young woman was a quiet strength. Aaliyah was the daughter of Marcus Johnson, a man whose exemplary career had left its mark on the history of the American military. A former general decorated for his courage and leadership, Marcus had retired from the barracks to become an influential advisor to the government. His mission, to fight institutional racism, promote equality, and defend the rights of minorities. That day, when Marcus received his daughter's call, the alarming tone of her voice chilled his blood. "They fired Aaliyah," she said, her voice shaky but resolute. Without wasting a second, Marcus felt anger rising, but also a fierce determination. "No one will touch my daughter with impunity," he said firmly. "This injustice must be corrected, and quickly." He contacted his personal lawyers, renowned specialists in labor law and civil rights. He also activated his media network, aware that public opinion would be a key lever for exerting pressure. "Prepare to make our voices heard," he ordered. There is no way this discrimination can remain hidden or ignored. As soon as the Aaliyah Johnson firing story became public, it became a media frenzy. From the first press releases, journalists seized on this disturbing story, that of a young black waitress fired because she answered a call in Chinese at a luxury restaurant where a white billionaire was having lunch. This news resonated far beyond the hushed walls of the Golden Orchid. It embodied a larger issue, a symptom of insidious systemic racism, often denied or ignored in the highest echelons of society. The subtle but persistent discrimination in prestigious workplaces was finally becoming visible. Dozens of civil rights groups quickly took a stand. Organizations like the NAACP, Color of Change, and numerous other local federations issued official statements denouncing Aaliyah's dismissal as an act of racial and cultural discrimination. On Atlanta college campuses, students held rallies and sit-ins in support of Aaliyah, holding signs reading, "Respect all languages, respect all cultures," and "Justice for Aaliyah." Equal rights activists used social media to amplify Aaliyah's voice. The hashtag Justice for Aaliyah went viral, shared tens of thousands of times within days. Videos explaining her story, her dual cultural background, and the scandal surrounding her dismissal circulated widely, sparking emotion and outrage. Several public figures spoke out. Actors, musicians, and opinion leaders expressed their solidarity. Among them was the African-American actress and activist Angela Brooks made a poignant post on Instagram, calling for this type of injustice not to be allowed to go unchallenged. For his part, a former civil rights minister made a statement on national television, recalling that the fight against racism must also be waged in the small details of daily life, such as the language spoken in the workplace. In response to this mobilization, a group of law students launched an online petition demanding Aaliyah's immediate reinstatement and an independent investigation into discriminatory practices within the Golden Orchid. In less than 72 hours, the petition garnered over 50,000 signatures, fueled by constant sharing and increased media coverage. The restaurant's managers found their phones ringing off the hook with messages, calls, and emails from disgruntled customers and organizations threatening boycotts. Faced with this media and social storm, the management of the Golden Orchid was forced to act. An emergency meeting was called, involving the owners, the general manager, and human resources managers. The restaurant's image was at stake. This place, which was intended to be a symbol of refinement and openness, now had to face a scandal that could cost it dearly, both in reputation and in customers. The next day, management officially announced the reopening of the case regarding Aaliyah's dismissal, promising a transparent investigation and respect for the rights of all employees, regardless of their origin or language. A few weeks after the media uproar and intense pressure from associations and the public, the management of the Golden Orchid took a step back. Aaliyah was summoned to the general manager's office, a now more conciliatory atmosphere. "Miss Johnson," the director began, "we wish to formally apologize for the way your dismissal was handled. After review, we recognize that the decision was unjustified." He added, almost embarrassed. "We propose that you return to your position immediately, with all the necessary guarantees to ensure that this type of incident does not happen again." As Aaliyah listened, she felt a mixture of emotions. Joy at justice being served, but also exhaustion from a fight that had revealed much more than she imagined. She had changed. This dismissal, this public humiliation, had transformed her. She was no longer simply a waitress, she had become a voice, a symbol. Supported by her father, Marcus Johnson, Aaliyah decided not to settle for this partial victory. She wanted to go further. Together, they decided to put their energy into a greater cause, defending the rights of workers facing discrimination and raising awareness of racist practices in the workplace. Soon, Aaliyah was invited to speak at conferences, forums, and meetings organized by civil society organizations, universities, and even government bodies. Her strong, authentic voice reached a wide audience. She told her story frankly, without bitterness, but with the conviction that every person, whatever their origin or language, should be respected and heard. The Aaliyah Johnson case quickly became a testament to courage and resilience. The media praised her dignity in the face of adversity, her inner strength, and the importance of family support, embodied by Marcus Johnson. She showed that in the face of power and injustice, it was possible to resist without losing one's humanity. Additionally, this story prompted many companies to review their internal policies, strengthen anti-discrimination training and promote a more inclusive environment. For Aaliyah, the fight didn't end there. She continued to advocate for a professional world where every voice would be respected and every identity valued. Today, Aaliyah Johnson is much more than a reinstated waitress. She has become a recognized activist, a living example that dignity, support, and solidarity can triumph over the most formidable obstacles. His story inspires those who fight against injustice and reminds us that change is possible when we dare to stand up, speak out and act.